the work of this city. Now, peace education holds the promise of changing the world for the better. We're on the threshold of taking the most important leap ever taken by our human family, of leaving behind a culture wrought with violence and dysfunction, and building in its place a culture of peace. It might be difficult to believe that as we hear daily reports or maybe we've witnessed ourselves with our own eyes. Violence, hatred, and much more. People look at the news, we feel discouraged at what we see and discouraged about our future. But the very foundation of a peaceful society, perhaps invisible to the majority, is steadily taking shape in places large and small. Peace education by and for young people is starting to lead to great advances toward the realization of a living, breathing culture of peace. Every one of us is important to this process, including every child. We, each one of us, must be the model. Our words and actions must reflect the qualities from which peace brings forth: respect, hope, gratitude, kindness, and love. Well, one of my own mentors put it this way: peace education is an everyday way of life, not a destination belief. It's simultaneously what is taught, how it is taught, how it is learned, and how it is lived. Thank you so much for being part of this living, breathing, daily process of peace building, peace teaching, and peace modeling. We're very excited about your participation today. Thank you very much.
Buenas
Actually,
tardes.
my college board.
Thank you, Jennifer. Buenas tardes, teachers of peace. I'm speaking from the United Federation of Teachers headquarters here in New York City. And I want you to know we are with you in spirit and in heart. Ms. Jennifer Kim is right on point. Peace is action. And thank you, Ms. Talley, for creating this day of action, this day of peace. But peace is not just action. It's also applying the solutions in action. And I know as educators, we've provided with a platform to model peace, to provide the leadership to create it and to sustain it. And it's for us as educators, it's important that we bring this message of peace and the benefits of peace and effective leadership into our classrooms and into our communities. To give an example, a situation that occurred to my colleague Louis Crisatelli and I, we were doing a training of coexistence to a group of teenagers from the Palestinian territories in Israel. And before the training began, the coexistence, a student from Israel came in, his name is Aldad, and he said to a student from Palestine, I see that you don't have any water for the pool. And I know it's very warm in this classroom, and you must be thirsty. So I want you to understand, I'm going to put this bottle of water in front of you, but I don't want to share it. As soon as we can understand that, we will get along just fine. And Tony, young boy from Palestinian territories, Bethlehem, said, oh Dad, I can see we're going to become their favorite friends or enemies. But I'm going to tell you right now, I am thirsty. It is me. So I'm going to reach for that bottle. And I know you are going to grab it from me. But I want you to know, because I am thirsty, because it is warm, we are going to struggle over that bottle of water. And because of that struggle, if you win that struggle, you will go to drink from it, you will realize, because of our struggle, there may not be any water either for you to drink or for any drink. So as long as we understand that, my dear friend or enemy, we will get along just fine. The moral of the story is that we are all a part of the solutions to peace. We can provide the solutions, but we have to teach the solutions. Then we have to support the solutions. And when we can give this to our students, and that my colleague and I will demonstrate later, then we will benefit as a community. We will benefit as a city, we will benefit as a nation, and we all will play roles as peacekeepers. Today, we and you are making that statement. You are making a global statement for peace. So I am so proud to be a part of this day. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Patricia Antali. I'm Executive Director of Peace in Action, founder of the Guatemala Peace Committee. Today's webinar has been organized by many educators around the world. Our youth and young adults in the Americas and in the world are calling out for recognition and protection of their human rights. In Mexico recently, there were 43 students that were kidnapped and murdered. In the United States, youth are disproportionately arrested and killed, minority youth, African Americans, and Hispanic youth. Recently in Canada, the country singled itself out as the only country to raise objections over a landmark United Nations document reestablishing the protection of the rights of indigenous people. If we want peace in the Americas, we must teach peace. As teachers and educators, parents, aunts, uncles, we must respond to the situation and help guide our youth to peace rather than allow them to turn to violence. This is peace in action. Hola, buenas tardes. Buenas tardes, Zihuatanejo. Un saludo desde Zihuatanejo. Greetings from Zihuatanejo. Buenas tardes, Wayne State. Can we get a shout out from you? Yeah, you can do better than that. Come on, hands up. Wayne State, show the love. We're sending your son from sunny Zihuatanejo. Les mandamos un poquito, un rayito de sol desde Zihuatanejo. Gracias. Buenas tardes. Y bienvenidos a todos. Welcome to everyone. Todos aquí en Zihuatanejo y también desde cada rincón del mundo. And from every corner of the world, we welcome you today. Yo soy la doctora Tania Weltman Cisneros de la Facultad de Lenguas Modernas y Clásicas de la Universidad de Wayne State in Detroit, Michigan. I'm Dr. Weltman, Tania Weltman Cisneros from Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. And to give you just a description about the format for today's discussion, it is a discussion, it is a dialogue, es un diálogo, es una discusión entre todos. We have a round table, a virtual round table format, un formato de mesa redonda virtual, para que todos puedan participar, so that everyone can participate and join our dialogue today regarding tools, resources, programs, and projects that we can use to facilitate peace in action amongst our youth, para facilitar y difundir la paz en acción junto con nosotros, los educadores y los jóvenes. We'll have different panels during our session with speakers from here in Zihuatanejo and joining us via webinar. And after their brief comments, we will open the floor to everyone for discussion. Vamos a tener unos paneles diferentes, con diferentes ponentes que nos van a platicar brevemente y después abrimos la conversación. Gracias a todos. Thank you for everyone for joining. Our first presentation is on Indigenous Peace. It's John Cavell, Director of Circuit Montreal, Quebec, and we have a special guest, Chief Dominic Wilson, with a message of peace again from Montreal, Canada.
Coming. This is a message from Chief Dominic Rankin, hereditary Algonquin chief in Montreal. He is a medicine man. Dominic could not be with us today, but he sends a message to you all. He says, Miigwech, which is Algonquin for thank you. It says Miigwech to grandfather's son.
Vamos a traducir las palabras del grupo indígena de Montreal, el jefe Dominique Rankin, del grupo indígena Anishuave y su mensaje de paz. Nos habla o nos manda sus mensajes desde Montreal, Quebec.
Miigwech to the grandfather's son.
Al abuelo del hijo.
To the grandmother moon.
A la abuela de la luna.
And all the stars.
Y todas las estrellas.
Every morning.
Cada mañana.
When the sun rises.
Cuando sube el sol.
We salute our grandfather.
Saludamos a nuestros abuelos.
That is shining one more time upon us.
Que brillan encima de nosotros otra vez.
And every night.
Y cada noche.
We thank our grandmother moon.
Le agradecemos a nuestra abuelita luna.
That looks out for us all night long.
Que nos protege cada noche.
Miigwech, thank you.
Miigwech, gracias.
For all the medicine that Mother Earth gives us.
Por toda la medicina que nos da la Madre Tierra.
The trees.
Los árboles.
The roots.
Las raíces.
And the leaves.
Y las hojas.
Flowers.
Flores.
And the plants.
Y las plantas.
Miigwech.
Miigwech.
For all the little fruits.
Por todas las frutas pequeñas.
That we pick with joy every summer.
Que sembramos cada verano.
Miigwech for our brothers.
Miigwech para nuestros hermanos.
And our sisters, the animals.
Y nuestras hermanas, los animales.
The big animals.
Los animales grandes.
As well as the small ones.
Tanto como los animales pequeños.
The fish.
Los peces.
The birds.
Los aves.
And the insects.
Y los insectos.
Thank you to the thunder.
Gracias al trueno.
And to the rain.
Y a la lluvia.
That cleans up.
Que limpia.
And waters our Mother Earth.
Y da nutrición y agua a la Madre Tierra.
Miigwech to the air that we breathe.
Miigwech, gracias al aire que respiramos.
To the sacred fire.
Al fuego sagrado.
And to the sacred water.
Y al agua sagrada.
That nourish us.
Que nos da nutrición.
And purify us.
Y nos purifica.
Miigwech.
Miigwech.
To my Creator.
A mi Creador.
That I salute.
Te saludo.
East for life.
Al este, la vida.
South for respect.
Al sur, respeto.
West for the accepted.
Al oeste, para abrazamiento.
And north for peace.
Y al norte, para la paz.
Miigwech.
Miigwech, gracias. Muy bien. Our next session will be on human rights and human dignity, the role of religion and faith-based organizations. Joining us today is Mr. Liberato Libre Bautista, counsel to non-governmental organizations and consultative relationships with the United Nations of Congo, and Assistant General Secretary to the United Nations and International Affairs of the General Board of Churches Society, United Methodist Church, and also Maestro Barbara E. Pally, the founder of the Detroit Renaissance Peace Center, Southfield, Michigan, United States, and author of Interfaith Dialogue. Thank you. we will now be joined by our two presenters who will give us some brief remarks. And if you are participating via webinar, please join us via the chat section. Post questions or comments throughout. Don't be afraid to share your voice.
Good afternoon, Tiwatanego. Buenas tardes, world. I spoke English, I spoke the world in Spanish. Let me go quickly to my 3 minutes. What I'm going to do that may be useful for our conversation this afternoon is to give a framework on 4 points. A framework for human rights, for human dignity, for human rights, for human responsibility, and what I would call the all too anthropocentric conceptions of rights that displaces an important dialogue which I call planetary dialogue. In other words, I will make the proposition that defending humanity's rights, independent of defending the planet, will include human rights. So the defense for human rights must also be the defense for the planet. Would you have the framework? Art. Modern day human rights looks at itself from our understanding of what a nation state, Estado de Gobierno, en todo el mundo. But that is a very short-sighted looking of the notion of human rights. Human rights were born out of human struggle, and in fact, they are born out of struggle against the excesses of the nation state. The irony of it, though, is that human rights are codified by nation states in the biggest club of governments, which is the United Nations. I call it a club, because whether you like it or not, in the end, non-governmental organizations do not participate in the drafting or in the final vote on any of the conventions. First, the modern understanding of human dignity says that human dignity is the expression of one's sacred worth, and therefore human dignity is inalienable and is inborn. You're born with dignity. No one gives you dignity. So the difference between human rights and human dignity is that human dignity is born with you. Human rights are the protections we give to human dignity. All you need to do with human dignity is to recognize. But you need protections for that recognition because nation states, non-state actors, rebel groups, and others will violate that dignity. And therefore, you need to codify dignity in the form of a tratado, a convention, and other arrangements for human rights. What that means, therefore, is that there is human responsibility. The responsibility of every citizen to make sure that they fight for the codification of sacred work in the form of a legal mechanism that protects it. So we've done human dignity, which is the foundation of human rights. The preamble of the Universal Declaration starts with the statement that human dignity is the foundation of human rights. But political scientists know, international affairs experts know, they look at the textbook and they say, and this will be the segue to Barbara's point, they say human dignity, we leave that to religion and ethics, and international affairs experts no longer talk about human dignity, and yet it's foundational. So if human dignity is about the sacred work, and if human rights has to do with the legal mechanism to secure dignity, then the human responsibility, therefore, has to do with making sure that every day we fight for human rights, because that's the only way we honor the sacred in us. As a last one, what it means, therefore, there is a new book that's coming out on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and I've been privileged to review the book. And the author, Professor Johannes Norstri, says that since the enactment of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, humanity, each one of you, has a direct access to morality, no longer intervened by and interlocuted by the priestesses of the church. Now that's a very radical. It used to be that you have to go to the Pope. It used to be that you have to go to the Archbishop. You have to go to the priest, to the pastor, to have access to morality. Because of the engage or the imam, the access to the sacred text is mediated by religious leaders. With the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, you now have access to the highest level accepted across religions, accepted across sexual orientation, accepted across cultures that is no longer mediated by religious leaders. That's what makes the Universal Declaration revolutionary. And therefore, interreligious dialogue, interfaith dialogue, intercultural dialogue, intersexual dialogue, not just gender dialogue, and planetary dialogue are dialogues that engage human dignity and human rights in fashion. So I'm very appreciative of this webinar for putting up such a section on human dignity and interreligious interfaith dialogue. What I did, however, is to challenge you to go beyond the interfaith, interreligious, to go to interculture. The indigenous community do not necessarily couch their understanding of rights and dignity in the Western construct that has far too dominated the discourse of human rights. So the human rights goes to égalité, fraternité. It's the French Revolution or the Chinese civilization, the Mesopotamian civilization, the notion of the human antedate 1770. It's antedate 1795 or whatever, the American Revolution. So human rights must not only point to the human beings that the anthropocentrism in the discourse of human rights. It must point to the fact that if the air is foul, you're not really going to enjoy it. Your environment must be clean so that you can embrace whatever you want to love without, putting hundreds of them not able to kiss them. So the environment must be clean so that your humanity can even enjoy. My long is
Thank you. And you touched upon the interface, I believe, is very important. And I'm going to pose 3 questions to you. How important is it to communicate and fellowship with those with different faiths? Is it important or is it not? Does it have any big value to help create a better world for all of us around? Those are the questions that we must ask ourselves. At a dramatic pace, more and more regions of the world are becoming environments of multicultural and multi-faith. This trend is having a profound effect upon public education, religious education, ethical education, and the education of social justice. A growing number of educators are discovering that religious and ethical education can no longer be conducted from the perspective of only one religion or one religious educators of future will be called upon the wisdom and the teachings of numerous religions and human traditions. Let's just think about it. There are 2.1 billion Christians. There are 1.5 billion Islamic, 900 million Hinduism, and it goes on and on. Today, we are in a world made up of hundreds of religions and thousands of people of denominations. And our deep religious convictions show guide us how we interact with one another in the secular world. Just think about it. Your religion, your tenets, your government. It has some bearing on the decisions that you make and how you make them. And what about someone who has a different religion? History has revealed that differences in religion have been and still are the root of many conflicts and wars. From the empirical literature and research, first-hand experience, interactive religion can open doors for understanding and reconciliation, as you have heard before. It can bring about peace to the steps of positive dialogue. Because you are one religion and I am another religion, there is a central and will always be a bond between us. That we believe that do unto others as you would have them to do unto you. And that's the starting point from the dialogue. The centrality of religious and spiritual leadership globally is increased and recognized, especially with the regard and the prevention of resolution of conflict. And many cross-border and international military clashes find their roots in ethnic and belief differences. I would say, in today's diverse and ever-changing global society, the benefits of interfaith dialogue reach far, far beyond what was once known as just respecting one another. We can no longer just respect one another. We have to have action to forge partnerships with people, not only in our local communities, but all over the world to combat violence and racial hatred and to protect our environment. Our children, each one of us, our children, should be able to live in a peaceful world, void of hatred. It should be a world that they can grow up to their fullest potential, one without hate, one without violence and discord. And each of us will have to come out of our own comfort zone and make an effort to take a striving part in the critical needs of humankind. And I would say that let's do it one piece at a time. Gracias. Thank you, Senator Larry Batista and Barbara and Sally. We open up the floor now to discussion. If you have questions from the chat and also in person from Wayne State, questions or comments? We have a question from Matt in New York. And the question is, what is the most imperative obligation teachers owe to students in this day and age?
There are many ways to respond to that. But the discussion this morning with the students, I think is a good segue to this discussion with teachers today. There's an obligation by everyone, both the teacher and the student, to produce and make use of a pedagogy that is liberating. A pedagogy that produces critical thinking. Now, the critical thinking acumen is not only required of the student, but it is required of the teacher. And therefore, a direct inquiry into the problems of the world are the responsibility of the classroom. The population of the classroom includes the teachers. Then the critical inquiry is a common endeavor. I lament the fact that the student ferment is absent in today's schools worldwide because the critical pedagogical tools to inquire upon received knowledge is very much lacking. The freire method of inquiry, of concentration, is lacking at the moment and is producing automatons, feeding the greed of the global unbridled market. And that's not good.
I would say that I respect you in your decision, the way you said. Also, I believe that the teacher has a responsibility of producing an environment that there is going to be some sort of action on the part of the student. And that teacher has to show some sort of model themselves, not just teach, but also say, what did I do? What have I accomplished in that world of sustainable, peaceful action? Other comments or questions via webinar or in person from Wayne State or here in Guatemala? George? A comment from Guatemala? Again, I talk about peace in action. What motivated me as an educator to get involved in this area of peace education happened to me when I was graduating school in college. I had a teacher in a business and economics course that talked about poverty and told me that poverty depended on people's culture. That people of European cultures were future-minded and they would be the prosperous people of the world. And people like me, of people of cultures of color, were by race, by culture, inferior. Now this was a required course at the University of Michigan Graduate School of Business in 1983. That inspired me to get involved in diversity. So as teachers, the first obligation is lifting up and elevating every single student in the classroom, respecting everyone's race, color, creed, and religion, and making every student feel part of our education system. And until that is done, then we will never have the market strike. Thank you. Let me go back to the interfaith dialogue. What we have done at the Detroit Renaissance District is we came out of our comfort zone and we invited people of all different religions to a seminar. Now they could not sit together. They had to go to different tables where there were different parts, different religions. And each one told of their religion and what they saw that it was good about their religion. And each one then had questions and answers. That's one way of learning in a setting like that. The other, we stepped out to really step out. And we brought the Palestinians, and the Israelites together. This was something that had not been done in the metropolitan Detroit area. And when they found the common ground, and that was the peace treaty, how they were going to work toward a peace treaty. And because of that, it was a beginning of people who have spent centuries coming together to teach and learn about
Yeah, I'm up. The screen up. I have no sound. Yeah, I lost the speaking. Okay, yeah, I see my face and I see somebody from. Okay, here. Yeah, okay. Okay. Good. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So, human dignity put in theological language, if you will. Let me wear theological.
I agree with that. Human dignity is the gift of God, of their likeness. So that's appeared in the three Abrahamic faiths. The understanding in the Abrahamic faiths is that each one of us
bears the image of God. So that's why there is receptivity in the Christian community, in the Jewish community, and in the Muslim community for that assertion that each one is a bearer of the sacred image of God. And therefore, human rights violations of one's dignity are in fact violations of that sacred work, and in fact that sin toward that is created.
Awesome.
But that creates a point for dialogue. To go back to the earlier question about the role of teachers in the classroom, the United Nations and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was a product of imagination. J.J. Rowling of the Harry Potter series said to make commencement speech at Harvard, he said, "Don't deny your students the power of imagination." I'm a teacher, I'm a professor as well. Every once in a while I do that. Do not be satisfied as teachers with memorized responses. Encourage your students to imagine, not just imagine outside the box. Let them imagine inside the box. Because between an imagined carrot box, that's the carrot box that we need to subvert. Because it is the foundation of what has been given us and needs to be changed. The origin of the United Nations is the fight against colonialism. It's a fight about genocide. It's about a fight against slavery. So those who created the United Nations imagined a different world. So the classroom is the incubator of imagination.
I think that the question that you asked about the secular, the non-religious, the agnostic, the atheist, that is a very, very good question because there are 1.1 billion of those. Now, where do they fit into our world? They have a voice also. Here's the book, Pathways to Interesting, that I wrote. So it gives my experience with 49 different denominations and religions that I had the privilege of over 6 years of becoming a part of. But do you know that when I went to write this book, one said to me, "You are a traitor." Why am I a traitor? Because I held hands with someone who was of a different religion. Now, this was a pastor that told me that. How can you break that barrier? But you have to do it, as I said, one point at a time. And that's what I want to do. That you have to step out of that comfort zone and go to a person and find out about his or her religion. And even though they are non-religious, talk to them anyway. Because they have a good point. We're going to close this panel with thank you to Levi Levato Bautista and Barbara E. Talley. We do have a question from Becca about the recognition and protection of human rights in the midst of capitalism and promotion of violence. We're going to keep going with that question to the next panel.
Oh, George.
advocating diversity,
Just sneak in, but
the instructor's workstation, Instructor Tanea in the computer lab.
question, I would have something intelligent to say. Jeez.
Jorge Tanea, Dr. Jorge Tanea, if you are in the computer lab, we're going to ask you to please step to the instructor's workstation for your presentation.
George, please mute your mic.
It is muted.
George, please mute
We
your
will
mic.
also be joined by Barbara Forty-Sheldon, Associate Professor and Assistant to Dean of Special Projects at the University of Detroit Mercy School of Dentistry in Detroit, Michigan. And the topic for this panel is diversity and student activism, la diversidad y el activismo estudiantil. We're going to first hear from Ms. Barbara Forty-Sheldon, and hopefully Dr. Jorge Tanea will join us shortly from Wayne State. Hola. Thank you so much for having me here on the program today. I'm kind of very excited, and I'm sure that many of you are asking, how can a person that's involved in dentistry care anything about this particular topic, since it isn't my area of experience very well? Because at universities, not only all over the world, persons that are different do not feel the community.
I was a student
But
from
they want
Mason.
to feel into that part of it. They will consider. It is so important when you are included and you want to feel accepted, respected, cared about, and so if you have
It's the playing up.
people. And who also the United States and myself is so I'm considered as a
That's
visitor.
They should have let me in this.
Excuse me just a second. George,
Yes.
we hear you guys talking in the background. You're
Sure.
interrupting our main speaker. Please mute your mic.
I'm showing mute on my screen, John.
So there's a click on your screen. There's a mic. Mute the mic, please.
It's saying muted. It's coming up muted.
So please ask everyone in the room to stay quiet while the person is speaking here,
Is
because
it
you're
muted?
interrupting the discussion.
Oh, I was under the impression, I apologize, I was under the impression that it was muted. It looks like it's muted.
I can still hear you, so it's not muted. Thank you, George. I'm sorry.
As a student, I was the only African American class, and one of the things that I felt is that my goodness, I don't understand why there was someone else in that. And as a student, I didn't feel that family feeling, that inclusive feeling that I didn't feel here. So one of the things when I became typically I wanted to make a difference in my school. I became hired at my university, and that was my goal. So today I want to talk about diversity and student activism. And I want to just throw out a few points. First of all, to the students, I think you should know the truth, find the truth, look for the truth, express the truth. Silence can be harmful and hurtful. To say nothing is stupid and to say the wrong thing. So stand and stand strong. On the front of my book, I'd like to indicate this message, and it says, many students must be the change we want to see in the world. Are we asking ourselves that we want those who have come before us to now make a change? So this is the change. Change is standing on your shoulders. What will the world look like as you are on your shoulders? Ask yourself that. It will be your conviction of peace, your convictions of nonviolence, your convictions of positive social change that's going to make a difference in our world. It's going to be your behavior and your conviction that is going to teach or should your action. Everything that you do, everything that you say, if you want too often, we judge a person and the wrong criteria. base it on their age. We may judge them on their gender, their religion, their race, their color, their creed, their abilities or their disabilities, or their sexual orientation. We owe it to each other to look past those immutable kinds of criteria. And we need to take a little deeper into the character of the person. It isn't, believe it or not, easy to find good in everyone, everything. So, if we are going to see the change, diversity, in terms of how it's handled and activism, then we're going to have to start with that old saying, "Little the water, little bit sand, make my little with my leg." So let's not start with that little drop of water and little bit of sand. So I would like to do a little exercise today so that we can kind of, comfort level in this room. And I don't know about you, but in the United States, and I don't want to generalize, but I will say that oftentimes we're not as we're not as touchy, and we'll shake their hands with us after. We don't want this to invade our space. When I'm here in Mexico, I feel like everybody is touchy, don't shake my hand, and hopefully not from one cheek, but from two cheeks. That kind of thing, and so there's a difference right there in how we are. Neither are bad, they're just different. But I think that if we really want to get close to each other and get to know each other, then I think this will exercise this first gallon of water, great body, everybody. So if I could get everyone to stand and find one person that you were looking. Queremos que se paren y que se encuentren y conozcan a una persona diferente, no la habían conocido antes. Es una actividad de conexión. Okay, if I can have your attention, this is really important. This is really important. Ahora un punto muy importante. Párense con los pies rectos. Los pies tocando los pies de la otra persona. Your feet touching the other person's feet. Toes touching. And los dedos de los pies que se tocan. So take a look at that person in front of you and stand toe to toe. Make those toes touch. Now I want you to think about this. When your toes are touching, please could I have your attention? I want you to think about this. When your toes are touching. When your toes are touching. When your toes are touching, that means that you may have different thoughts, ideas, different ways of thinking. You may not agree with each other, but you will stand toe to toe, with those toes together. With those toes together. Stand toe to toe. When you are standing toe to toe, it is okay to have different ideas and thoughts, but you don't have to be angry. You don't have to be mad. You don't have to be hurtful simply because you have differences in the way you think. Okay, now I want you to take a look into each other's eyes. Look into each other's eyes. You must do this. Look into each other's eyes. Look into each other's eyes. When you look into a person's eyes, one of the things that I have found, it is difficult to lie to a person. It is very hard to tell a lie looking somebody straight in the face. You either drop your head or do something. It is difficult. So when you're standing toe to toe, when you're standing eye to eye, you are being honest with each other. We're going to have peace. We must learn to be honest in all of our dealings. So stand toe to toe and eye to eye. Okay, now this is really serious.
Ahora es un punto muy serio, muy importante.
This is really serious, so listen to this. You are toe to toe, you're eye to eye. Now, you are also shoulder to shoulder, so stand together and look at each other.
Barbara, Patricia.
You are shoulder to shoulder. So when you're facing each other and you're standing toe to toe, eye to eye, and shoulder to shoulder, that also tells us that we are pretty much equal to each other in many aspects. I am not better than you. You are not better than me. We are all God's children in this faith. So we stand toe to toe, shoulder to shoulder, eye to eye, and there's one more. And this is one God gives you. When you face each other, face each other, face each other, we're standing toe to toe, eye to eye, shoulder to shoulder. You are also standing. You're standing toe to toe, shoulder to shoulder, eye to eye. You are also standing heart to heart. That means that you are connected physically. So give each other a exercise is we must all learn to love each other. Love each other with all of our heart. Give each other a hand. Muchísimas gracias a la señora Barbara por esa actividad interactiva que nos ayuda a trascender las diferencias para destacar la honestidad, la igualdad entre cada ser humano, de un corazón a otro. Thank you. We're going to ask Wednesday if Dr. Jorge Sinea is in the building. If he's not, can you please rotate the camera to the front row of the faculty panel? Wayne State, we are calling for your help, please. Thank you. And where did our faculty, there is our faculty panel. Okay. If any other faculty are in the room, you can please also come down to that side. We're opening up the floor to questions from you. Unfortunately, Dr. Sinea is not there, but we do have other faculty present. We have a question from Jacques Vonvo from our webinar.
That's the question right there. You see it?
You can also turn on the mic Wednesday. You can have the microphone turned on so our faculty panel in front there can speak. And a question from our webinar audience. Thinking about this intersection of bridging differences, bridging gaps, to highlight the connection, para destacar las conexiones entre cada ser humano, highlighting the connections that we do have to be honest and para promover la honestidad de la igualdad. A question from our webinar panel.
Maybe George.
George, do you have a question? And our faculty members in the front at Wayne State University.
Can you hear me?
Questions or comments about thinking about diversity, student
Yes.
activism, bridging gaps?
Can it, John? Let me see.
Yes, go ahead, George.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I love that exercise. And it was, we put the hearts together. And I'd like to just take it a little bit further. I think our humanity comes out when we can connect to each other through our suffering for our humanity. Dr. Elie Wiesel once said that when people ask me what I do, he said that I'm a collector with others. And I think that's what we need to do when we share our diversity, is we share our stories. So then the person who's in front of you has a story that's part of our place. And then when we share ourselves, we become real to each other. And that's what humanity can grow from. So thank you for that exercise and bringing us and us together.
Campus, ethnic, religious, social, diverse campus. If any of you have a comment on how the role of diversity is a part of your role as educators within and beyond the classroom, your experience or philosophies that you guys engage as we connect with a very diverse student body. If you have a comment in response to that, feel free to go up to the microphone at the instructor workstation at any stage. How do you engage the question of diversity in your classroom?
Can you hear us when you say?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful.
Responding.
Please speak up so we can hear you.
Hi, I'm Barbara from Wayne State University. Can you hear me?
Hello, Barbara.
Hi. My question slash comment is, I believe in all of our dealings when we are focused on social justice, we have to actually model what we teach. I would like to see more examples of the diversity and in looking at those examples, how do we reflect more on what we teach to our students as well as what we teach to each other? How can we see those examples of peace in action with the diversity that we all possess?
In terms of our content, how we can engage diversity in the classroom.
Yes.
We have here's responsible for service. This is the risk of the question. First of all, every teacher within the university and educators need to learn about one-on-one teaching. If all of the courses and classes that the teachers have to take to stay informed, they should make sure that they take classes that is diversity. The teachers should what contribution to the diversity of perspective. One of the things that I learned as a teacher is that I learned that it was as I teach things in me. So it is to you as a teacher to make sure that their classroom really wants to be respected. Equality in terms of learning, in terms of speaking, in terms of skills, and having the ability to hire people in that classroom under the shoe. And teachers are supposed to decide how to different school is